President Harada, and SGI USA General Director Strauss. Two of these messages will now be read by Barbara Schneider.
Condolence message from Daisaku and Kaneko Ikeda. To the family and friends of Mr. Larry Coryell, I am deeply saddened by the passing of Mr. Coryell, who I dearly respect and love, and I offer my heartfelt condolences for your profound loss. I cannot bear to imagine the immensity of your grief at this moment. From Japan, together with my wife, I am offering Daimoku for his peaceful repose. I remember Mr. Coryell as a gracious and gallant figure whose wonderful sounds and trailblazing music overflowed with a captivating and fresh rhythm. One of the world's greatest performers, he was also a pioneer of the SGI USA Arts Department. His noble efforts to impart courage and hope to others will boundlessly shine on forever. We pay tribute to Mr. Coryell's great victory in life and offer our heartfelt prayers for his enduring happiness, with palms pressed together, February 24, 2017, Daisaku and Kaneko Ikeda. Message of condolence from Adine Strauss. To the family and friends of Larry Coryell, from the bottom of my heart, I would like to express my sincerest condolences to each of you gathered here today to honor and celebrate the life of Larry Coryell, especially to his wife Tracy, daughters Allegra and Annie, sons Morali and Julian, his brother James, and sister Gloria. My thoughts and prayers are with you. I believe it goes without saying that Larry was a peerless musician, a pioneer whose place in history of jazz and rock music is already locked in. But another key component of Larry is the fact that he loved the SGI, loved President Ikeda and his teachings, and made magnificent contributions to our world peace movement for more than 33 years with his guitar and his cheerful, upbeat character. I can personally remember seeing Larry play in 1979 in Philadelphia, and then seeing him again 20 years later in New York after he had started practicing Buddhism. While his playing was magnificent on both occasions, what I could sense from him the second time around was a tremendous sense of appreciation for his audience, which he expressed over and over, touching the hearts of everyone present. Through his great talent and his positive personality, Larry encouraged so many people throughout the world. He was also able to live out a great dream by playing for his mentor in life, SGI President Ikeda, on many occasions. The great causes Larry made inspired and encouraged all of us. On behalf of the members of SGI USA, please allow me to express my deepest respect and appreciation for his noble efforts. SGI President Daisaku Ikeda shares, quote, "From the perspective of Nichiren Buddhism, though our body may die, our life itself is eternal. On death, our life enters a state of absolute joy and freedom, infused with the treasures of the heart, the benefit and good fortune we have accumulated through our Buddhist practice in this lifetime," end quote. I am confident that Larry will quickly be reborn with a new mission to work for the peace and happiness of the people, continuing his own human revolution while further strengthening our bonds of family and friendship. Let us continue to live out our lives with dignity and to realize great happiness and victory. Through our victories, we can best express our gratitude to Larry and attest to the beautiful life he lived. I am sending my heartfelt prayers for the eternal happiness of Larry Coryell and for the prosperity and advancement of you all, his family and friends. With my deepest sympathy, Adine Strauss, SGI USA General Director.
Now, we will have a slideshow presentation on the life of Larry Coryell. tribute by Larry's children, Coryell Coryell, Julian Coryell, and Annie White.
Pretty emotional. Yeah. You guys doing all right?
All right, so we're going to play. It was a codependent nightmare.
Wow. Thank you all for coming. I know it means a lot to everybody. And there's not enough time to explain and say all the things that we want to say and all the music that we'd like to play, but we're just going to do what we do. And when thinking about all the songs or which song am I going to play, I want to thank my sister Allegra, my beautiful sister, sitting right there. So she said, why don't we do one request, can we do Old Man by Neil Young? So I thought that's a pretty good song to express the feeling. So I just want to thank everybody that's here, and especially my brother for doing an amazing job of helping out with sing along if you like. Oh man, look at my life. I'm alive like you were. Oh man, look at my life. I'm alive like you were. Oh man, look at my life, 24 and there's so much more. Live alone in paradise makes me think of you. Love lost such a cost. Give me things that don't get lost, like a coin that won't get tossed, rolling home to you.
can't be put into words. We will try. For now, we're going to do some music. Sometimes that's better. All right.
In time, the Rockies may crumble, Gibraltar may tumble. They're only made of clay. In time, the Rockies may crumble, Gibraltar may tumble. They're only made of clay.
That was one of Dad's favorite songs, and I dedicate that to everyone
loves Larry. We'll talk about that. But first, I'd like to bring up my big sister. Please welcome Annie White.
We will talk later, but I've gotten to know Larry in the last 15 years. He's the daughter that he fathered when he was 17 years old, and I was able to find him.
now we will have Words of Remembrance by Julian Coryell, Murali Coryell, Jim Coryell, Mike Mendel, Gloria Chun, and Annie White.
So there's so much I want to speak to. And I wrote something, and I'm going to try my best to stick to the script. But I do have to preface that by saying I think the hardest thing about losing somebody you love, amongst many things, is the one time, maybe the one time, that everybody who also loved them finally comes together in one place. And I don't know why something like this has to happen, for that to happen. And I wish that was different. I don't have enough time, and I don't have enough words to tell everybody in this room how much you need me. And that's very hard, because everybody in this room means so much to me in ways you will never even know. But at least you couldn't see. And with that, I'm going to read. I look at my father through three lenses. I look at him through the lens of a fan. As an admirer, he was a god to me as a little boy and as a grown-up. He was a man who could do anything he wanted on the guitar, and he did. And I've honestly never known anyone else like him in that way. Now that technical ability was matched by his musical vision, which had no boundaries and no prejudices. And I think his only goal was to take a piece of something he liked and turn it into something original. He was fearless on the guitar. He destroyed expectations. He destroyed genres. And as a fan, I always got a voyeuristic kind of thrill watching him play. For those of you who know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. The intimacy that he shared with his guitar, and the ability to let the rest of us witness that intimacy in a room, still leaves me in awe. And when I talk to young guitar players, they ask me what the secret is to being great. I say I don't know, but I think it has something to do with real vulnerability, which he had in spades when he played. Whatever eccentricities he acquired were earned. No one put my face on magazine covers or wrote about me in history books, but they did for him. He was actually a test question on my history of jazz final at Berkeley. I got that one right. I've often wondered what it must have felt like to fly so close to the sun at such a young age, and then spend the rest of your life fighting gravity. A gravity that will bring you ever closer to this world. And now he is gone. And this world remains. And I will look to the sun the rest of my days and wonder, what must it be like? As a peer, part of ourselves perfect. But still, that being said, ever really listening to Larry, to Dad, and you know like I do, good nights, he had no equal. And on the bad nights, he fell on his face so spectacularly that you actually loved him more. And that's what made all the phonies shake in their boots. Because he didn't care. So authentic, so in the moment. God, I admire that. Such courage, and I don't see enough of that in musicians today. I feel endless gratitude I was lucky enough to be part of the family business. I had unparalleled access to such a rare level of excellence, expertise, and artistry. And many guitar players have transcribed the solos, and I have too. But when I had a question, I just go in the next room and ask them to show me. One time I had a student play one of his solos for a final at university where I teach, and unbeknownst to the student, I had Dad watching him on Skype. And when the kid finished the solo, I turned the phone around. And Dad said, "Hey, you did pretty good." I've never seen a whiter face. All the blood. He set the bar impossibly high. We know this. Perhaps one day, too, you or I will try our hand at Rhapsody in Blue on the guitar, or Ravel's Bolero on the guitar, or The Rite of Spring on the guitar. Perhaps one day you and I will help design an entire genre of music. But it's doubtful. And eventually, maybe we'll also write entire operas based on the works of Tolstoy and Joyce. I'm still trying to figure out how to play with all the things you are. As a fan and a peer, I share the same feeling many do, that Dad was often on the edge of something, brave enough to try things first, that others later refined, and maybe not surprisingly had more commercial success with. I cannot count the times famous guitarists I spoke to conceded to me privately that they copped more than a few ideas from him. But that is my bitterness, not my father's. In the end, he didn't seem to care that much about the glory. Don't get me wrong, he knew Larry, he was human. But when I really gave him a hard time about it, he'd always sort of shrug his shoulders and say, "Who cares? Let me show you what I'm working on now." Incredible. Always moving forward. So here's the last one. On the flight here, I was watching a movie and I was going in and out of palpable grief. And at some point I got lost in whatever it was I was watching. I thought, I gotta call Dad. Tell him about this movie. He's gonna laugh. Then I remembered I couldn't call him anymore. But that was my relationship with him. I called him Peter Pan. Because in many ways he never grew up. There was actually nobody else in this world who could make me feel whole like my dad. If you knew him, you understand what I'm saying. To this day, when I really think of who he was, I'm always reminded, none of us are as old as we think. Life can and should be a jam. You know? And no matter what, things are never as serious as you believe. He was the great destroyer. He was Shiva. The child in me longs for a father I could never catch, one who was always one too many steps ahead of me. I was only ever able to grab his coattails from time to time. conventional father. We had no football in the yard. But when I was 8 years old and wanted to know how to play joy spring, he was Johnny on the spot. Show me the whole thing. From a certain point of view, I can tell you he lived a dualistic life, a do as I say, not as I do kind of life. But from another angle, his consistency resided in his need to be authentic in every moment. And if you really knew him, you understood he wasn't bullshit. He really had to be real all the time, even if that wasn't at the pleasure of everyone else. How many people can you say that? That informed his music. You can hear it. He was guided by his muse. He lived as he played, beholden to little and prone to capricious shifts apropos of nothing. And yet, like his music, I can tell you, he taught me to integrate, to love everyone and everything, to have no prejudices save only one, avoid low-quality experiences at all costs. This is bullshit, man. That's not me, that's it. Failure for growth is necessary, but steer clear of wasted energy. Know when it's time to turn the page, and when you go big or go home, even if home is changing all the time. After my mom passed, I realized forgiveness and harmony are paramount in all relationships. And while it's true if you don't hold someone accountable, they can get away with murder. In a way, they also can't hurt you. And so I learned to keep Dad in my life because I asked very little of him. And I was rewarded with his company from time to time. And that's all the boy wants. Just a little time with his dad. But he belongs to everyone. He belongs to the world. But I made our relationship as best as I could. I learned how to make him laugh, I learned how to praise him, and I learned how to even occasionally impress him. When we almost lost him last summer, I made my peace with his departure. How incredibly lucky we've all been to get these last few months with him. The man we love the most. And Larry the man is now gone. But Larry the artist is immortal. And I say this to everyone, but especially to his family. Any of us, at any time, press a button or click a link, pick up a guitar. He's right there. In my childish mind, I make up that my father and my mother are together again. And Mike's there too, and Uncle Al and Victor, and the Count, and this, unfortunately, is on. But they are playing, and my mother's by his side, and she's beautiful and inspirational, and they're happy, and she's singing to me. These are the sentimental wishes of a little boy. I'll close with this. In the last few years, I'd occasionally be approached by a layman telling me I had grown to be a formidable match for my father on guitar. And that's kind of like saying my kids are better at using the iPhone than me. But you know what? My dad invented the iPhone.
my brother. Let's hear from my brother. And you know what's really cool? It took me having my own 2 kids who are right here, Charlie and Jackson. To realize that parents love their children individually for how they are, and they don't necessarily just love one more than the other because they can play Joyce Spring before you. Because not everybody, what I realized a long time ago is that I can't do what he did. I just wanted to, but I can't do it. And everybody always told me, including himself, to find your own style, find your own thing. And everybody that I ever met that I looked up to said the same thing. Yet we all start out imitating and emulating people that we look up to. And he was it, and everybody around. People like Miles Davis and George Benson and Herbie Hancock and Wayne Shorter, and everybody. And so I have a couple of notes here. I'm like the opposite of my brother. I didn't write anything down. And I'll also say that, contrary to what he said, we did have a football in the yard. We had a basketball hoop, we had baseball, and me and my dad actually, we bonded first on sports before music. So this is just another way that we, got together. And then it was later on that I was accepted also as a peer, whatever you want to call it. Because sometimes when you do something different, like he did, it doesn't always get recognized right away, but eventually, you have to grow into it. So, one thing I will say about my dad is that he had beautiful wives. Yeah, he was a player. Beautiful wives. They're still beautiful. And from that, we have, beautiful people. And, I used to tell people when they say, "Hey, how's your dad doing?" I said, "Well, he's doing good, man. His new young wife is younger than me. Keeping real happy, healthy. Living down in Florida, doing the tennis and the golf, and I'm gonna just jump around because I'm just, like I said, I didn't write anything down. But I will say that on Friday, he called me at my house in Woodstock, just outside of Woodstock, New York. He had been planning on coming up on Saturday to visit us, as he would often do. We had a little guest room there. Some of you have stayed over, you know where it is. But there was always, I was so happy to have a place for him to come up, and he was so incredibly proud of his children, of all of his children. And so, at any rate, he said, on Friday he called me and said, "Morale, I'm not feeling too good, man. I might need you to come down and do this gig for me at the Iridium." I said, "What do you mean, Dad? What are you talking about?" He said, "Shortness of breath, I said, "Well, if it's bad, you can go to the hospital." He goes, "Well, I think I'll be all right." And I said, "Well, did you call Tracy?" He goes, "I don't want her to worry." He didn't want her to worry. He didn't want me to worry. So he said, "Well, I said, "Dad, this is a straight up jazz gig, and I can't do what you do." He goes, "You're a Coryell. You come down, you can do it." For real, that when Julian talked about how Dad would set the bar so impossibly high that you could never live up to it, and my son Charlie even wrote about that. I mean, he knew Grandpa enough, and anybody that really got to hang out with him and know what a character he is, he was, and will always be remembered. It was just really special. But he did his gigs, and Saturday night I was playing in Hartford, Connecticut, where we used to live in Connecticut. We grew up there, and on the way home, driving home, and thinking about everything, and then the shock of the phone call from Tracy. I just come back from the grocery store, just had bought some food, was gonna cook it up, and boy, it just threw me. because the stun and the shock of it all is large. And it is true that it's not just a loss for me, but it's a loss for so many people. When I think of the ability and the talent, the knowledge, the generosity, it's just so much information is just gone. I was telling my wife Mary the other night that I can't imagine such a bright light just being turned out like that. Such a bright light. And just a couple of notes here, because I know we have other people that need to speak. But he could play in the tradition, he could break the rules, and he was the most fun person to cook for. He loved to eat, and he would he would make you feel so good as a cook. Whatever you made, it's the best thing he's ever And everywhere I went, there was always stories about him. Everywhere I went, I was just in Panama. Before that, I was in Mystique, and there was all the musicians there and telling me stories, and so I wanted to say that I have stories, to tell people. There's not enough time to tell everything, but what I want to suggest is find us on Facebook or email, and let's share some stories, because you all have some stories that I want to hear, and I have stories too, and so. Okay, I'll say this quick thing is, I wrote a song about, it's called I Was in the Room with Jimmy. It was about Jimi Hendrix. When I was a baby, some of you saw Jimmy and my dad playing together on the pictures up there. And so one night at the Fillmore East, they used to just carry me around in a little bassinet and just bring me to all the gigs. And so one night, Jimmy came backstage and apparently picked me up, and he didn't drop me. God did drop me on my head. Exposed some of my problems. Yeah. He said, maybe something was exchanged there. And then later on, I recorded the song, I Was in the Room with Jimmy. And he said, I sent him the record, and he says, I'm going to give you some criticism on this. It's two things. It's too short, and you should add me on it. He's right, and I'm just going to go back and say one more thing, and there's just too many things to say, but one of the most recent stories I got, I thought was really cool, because, again, it speaks to the humanity. And the other thing I want to say is, one of the things I will really miss is being able to say, Dad, how do you do this? How do you play this? How do you play this Jimi Hendrix, When Christ Mary? How do you play this? Because he did it. He knew. And so that is a wonderful advantage we all have. Or he said, I'm working on this John Scofield song, and what do? He goes, here's his number, call him up. Stuff that never would have occurred to me. Absolutely. But he was smart, he was like one of my heroes, Captain Kirk, He had the answers. He could improvise his way out of anything, or into anything. And one more story I'll say is that he used to, when I was in Panama recently, there's a piano player who used to work with Oscar Peterson. My dad was a huge Oscar Peterson fan. And so he told me that whenever Oscar Peterson used to play at the Blue Note, my dad would come down there and he was too shy to talk to him. Yeah, and that's what I said. I said, Dad, shy? He said he just wanted to give him the CD and then he'd just leave and run away, I said, Dad, why did you do that? He goes, I was probably being an airhead or something, I don't know. But it occurred to me that he was, even someone as great as him also is human and could look up to somebody. And then that same person who told me that Oscar Peterson story said that whenever Art Tatum showed up to Oscar Peterson's gigs, Oscar Peterson would stop playing. And so eventually Art Tatum said, man, I come to see you, you'd stop playing, I want you to play. So if there's a guy who plays the blues, that's the one thing he does, but he does it really well. So that also gave me a lot of confidence to go off and do, what I do, because we all have to be who we are and become comfortable with who we are. And I'm just so grateful that he got to see my children and teach them. I'm not talking. But thank you so much for coming. It means so much.
Good evening, everybody. Coryell, Tracy, and everybody that showed up here tonight, thank you for coming. I'm going to introduce you to young Larry, my friend. As the years went on, I called him Lorenz, and he called me Mandolini. And that's the way we go. Hey, Lorenz. Hey, Mandolini. And I met Larry when he was 15. I was in the city of Yakima, Washington, which was the big city around where he lived. He was in Richmond, Washington, about 70, 80 miles away. And our band was without a guitarist. He was a guitarist, I was a teacher. And we went to buy an amplifier at Portland Music because they gave, in Richmond, because they gave credit to teenagers. They're no longer in business. But we were there and talking to the salesperson and telling him our woes about our band. He said, well, we have a fella, you won't believe he plays so well. His name's Larry Coryell. He's 15 years old. We said, no. We're 17. We have mastered life. and unfortunately, we can't have this guy. You know. So he said, well, I'm coming for you. And I said, no, that's okay. No, thank you so much. And well, anyway. We made the purchase, and he called Larry, and Larry came down, and he sat down and pulled out a guitar. And the manager told him to show us some stuff. And did he ever show us some stuff? We were playing the pop and rock stuff of the day then, and he sat down and he played Dwayne Eddy. All right? He probably did that with no hands. I don't know. But then he showed us some of the hit solos of the day and raunchy, and then he crunched us with Chuck Berry. You know, I mean, he did it, and we knew we were in the presence of something special. I mean, really special. We didn't have vocabulary then even to express. We were kids from Yakima. We didn't know, but I mean, he was just outstanding. And he and I bonded. We had the same quirky sense of humor, it would appear, and the same quirky sense of humor about music and with music. And so whenever we'd get together, it was usually on gigs, because in those days you didn't use a telephone, it cost a fortune. But it was always, hey man! And we had something to share. I mean, he would show us something, you know, we got in a thing about whole tone scales and just, you know, discovery. And this guy was on the cutting edge, and yes, the bar was high. He kept pushing the bar, is what he did. I mean, he came out like lightning. I mean, it was so much fun, and I had so many stories that I could tell you about him. He was just so outstanding. And I appreciated jazz, not as much as he did then. His band that day was Cal Farlow. And he was talking about Cal Farlow, man. And, you know, and I don't remember if he showed us Wes. I've never heard of Wes, but I know at one point he showed us Wes. And we said, oh my God, you know. There's so many times we locked him in a trailer in Yakima, Washington, because we wanted him to go with us to Phoenix. So we kidnapped him. And we wouldn't let him out until we crossed the Oregon-California border. And he was still 15, maybe 16 then. But, I mean, I don't know. I never spoke with his mom until I was an adult after that. I understand why now. But we did this, and there are all kinds of little antics. God, boy, this guy was pressing forward, playing better, writing great. He moved to Seattle, left our band, and moved to go to college, and worked with bands there. And there was one night they came down to the club where I worked. It was an organ trio. I'll try and keep this short. Man, I have so many stories. I'll try and keep this short. It was we had an organ trio. We played from 11 until 3:30. You know, an after-hours club. So Larry could come in after anything he did, and you know, jam, play, hang out, whatever. And one night, Brother Jack McDuff was a star in the club that we were playing. The open Jack McDuff played. He had a young, really great guitar player too, about Larry's age, maybe 20, 21, something like that. Larry sat in with Jack McDuff and this other guitar player, who was a good guitar player. And that's the first time that Larry and George Benson got together. Yeah, right? My God, you know, we were in the presence of titans. In the presence of titans. What a gift. And okay, I'm going to backtrack a little here, because when he was 15, we heard him play. The seeds of everything that Julian and Morale told you were already present. You know, the willingness, he had a curiosity, and he would move forward, and he would learn. And I was present. I saw the seams as rock and roll and jazz melody. You know, it was really something. I say, oh, okay, you got that lick from, huh? And he said, yeah. And then he would turn it around, and he would, you know, just amazing. And, oh man, there's so many, there's so many of the big celebrations will end. Oh my, do we. And I wanted to call him today. I was walking around the block, and my awareness of the reality of this has come in increments that I didn't expect to. And I was calling out, damn. It's time to call friends. And of course it was the flicker, and then a little more truth. He called me Friday when he I might need an emergency room. And so I told you guys, absolutely, Roosevelt, 59, between 9 and 10. And he said, I've been short of breath. I'm really short of breath. So, I said, the slightly nagging things to him that needed to be said about taking care of everything. No, I got to have sound check, and I'll be better. And I said, listen, let me know. You call me wherever you are. I'll swing by in a cab and take you there. And but later he showed up at my place unannounced. Just showed up about 5:45. Sat down, I put him in my lazy boy recliner, and he loved it, and he said he didn't want to get up. He was fine. Here's the thing. Larry convinced me he was fine. Okay? He had the exuberance and the strength and the humor and everything that Larry is. He convinced me, okay, yeah, okay, man, you're fine. And then, quarter 7, he said, I've got to leave it. I go, well, yeah. And then Saturday evening, he came over, my friend Miller came over, we chanted. So Larry chanted on the final evening. We went to hear him play his ass off. Of course, he had a standing O, he had a full house, he played great. And the last thing he said to me from the stage, on the last night, was, Mandolini! And, yeah, and that's up. I spoke with him at 11:30 that night. We made plans for breakfast the next morning before he caught his plane. And I called him when he didn't call me first, and told him that I was going to go out and have some breakfast. It was kind of enormous conscious. And Tracy called me about 45 minutes after. And that's when the sequence of events took place that you know about. You know the events. You know about it. And what can I say? Boy, I have some wonderful memories of this man. I know the human being, I know the strength, I know the exuberance, I know the fun that he had. This was a guy who wanted to have fun. And he had fun playing, and he was moving forward. He's still moving forward. I have a guess here about the university. Larry left us suddenly. You know, he did. And I'm thinking the universe had a conversation with itself, and it said, what are we going to do? We got to bring somebody on board who can match this energy called Luzon. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? How can that be? Oh, there he is. I said, let's bring him on board. So, Larry, my good friend in your travels, we will see you again.
How you doing, okay? You worried? You can go to the car and just...
Wow. Yeah, that was fantastic. Thank you, Mike. Here's the... Okay. As all of you know, my brother died on Sunday. His passing was sudden, and it was totally unexpected. Larry was a wonderful, enigmatic person. He was a great brother. My sister and I were both agree with that. And he loved his family, his kids, everyone he was close to, his grandkids, all of his grandkids, more than anything in the world. And I know this because I was his very best friend. Annie, Morali, Julian, Allegra, they were the world to him. He was a great artist. He was an innovative musician. And he was an amazing guitarist. But we can all be thankful for that. Because now we have his art, his recordings, and we have the influences that he has left in our music that has yet to be manifested. So he was a force of nature in that regard. He was also a flawed human being. suffered throughout his life from so many demons. But just like when his college roommate, when he was at University of Washington, told him, hey, you'll never play as good as Dave Rubin. He defeated every demon. He tamed them for the last 20 years of his life. Well, really the last 30, he was working on it, but it was really in the last 10, he really was there. He elevated his life condition through his assiduous practice of Nichiren Buddha and his dedication to Alcoholics Anonymous. Throughout his life, he displayed an indomitable spirit. As Mike has testified, as all of you said. And I am sure he will continue to have that fierce growth, that fierce desire to be better all the time for eternity. Thank you all for being here today. And I want to let you know how much gratitude we all feel towards you, the whole family, for the contributions you've all made to him and to Larry's life. Thank you.
Everyone we've all read, the Godfather of fusion. How did it happen and when did it? I came a little bit early today. I looked at all the beautiful flowers. Well, here's how it happened. These flowers here, all these flowers are just as important as these. Are just as important as these. But when I saw this card, I had hope up. Gracious, kind-hearted, so loved, influential, and a great human being. I will miss my friend. And here it is. As the Godfather of fusion guitar, we owe you our gratitude. Al Dino. I thought it was too loud voice. I'm going to stand back from the mic just a tad. I'm going to read in Larry's words. Many of you left an email, and I will email this whole thing to you. I'm only going to read one long comment of Larry's. There was a book written in 1968, written by Julie Coryell and Laura Friedman. This is where the beginning of the Godfather of fusion. Julie interviewed 70 musicians. She also interviewed her husband in 1968. I'm going to take one section here and I'll read it swiftly. Julie, when did you really start to play with other musicians? When I was about 16, at the same time I was taking guitar lessons. I belonged to the group in high school with piano player, bass player, and drummer. Julie, how did playing with other people affect your thinking then? So you're thinking, 16 years old. Larry, I discovered something, and these are his words. It was amazing that you had to play totally differently when you played with other people. than when you were playing by yourself. When you play by yourself, there's just nothing to play to except your own imagination. With other people, the way they would respond to your playing, now that's jazz. They would respond to your playing radically, and it would alter the content of the music. Julie, you went on to college and majored in journalism. Why not music? Larry, I really felt I wasn't talented enough. Aha. Julie, when did you finally believe that you were? And as Jim expressed, it was his college roommate. How did Larry respond to someone saying, hey,
You're not talented.
no? So the next question was, with that, how did he respond? Well, Larry said, and this is a quote, I immediately took up the gauntlet. Like a typical Aries, I went to war on the idea that I didn't have enough respect for my ability. Now, we can all take something from that. So when you head off to whatever you're doing, whether it's volunteering or working, you've got to believe and respect your ability every day of the week. Larry, these are his words. Here's how I did that. I just stopped doing my scholastic studies and studied nothing but music. Day and night, I just hung around with the best musicians I knew of in every particular town and went to every jam session. I never slept. I wrote music, studied it, and played it constantly. I listened to a lot of jazz. Then bebop, and can remember hearing Donna Lee by Charlie Parker. I'll never forget the first time I heard a trumpet player and a saxophone player playing Donna Lee in unison. Again, a comment, gut comment from him. And then he said, after I got off the floor, I said, that's for me. I've got to learn how to play that. That's when Coltrane was doing his best stuff, right after he left Mahler. I would listen to music and it would lose me, like chasing the train. Larry, you're not chasing the train. You rule all of us. Thank you.
I think most of the subjects have been pretty much covered, except the question that you're probably all asking yourself is, what is it like to be raised as a genius? I imagine there were times when I felt like I was a penguin with an eagle for a brother. A lot like that. He was the greatest brother. He had so much love. He really loved his family. And loves the thing that the more you give away, the more you got. And I think my brother came to truly understand that as I look out among these people and all of the wonderful people here as him. He was a great big brother. He was always in my life. He was my first playmate. He was the first person I got in trouble with. And he loved sports. He always had so much energy. The boys are raising their sons now, and I'm sure they understand how much fun that is. You've got to keep them focused. And the way my mom was a musician as well. The way Mom kept him focused, and she noticed that he had talent. I mean, he sang harmony with her when he was 3. So he had piano lessons starting about the time that he could reach the keys. And Mom always encouraged her, and the house was full of music. And she encouraged him, and did it in a way where he loved music. It never became not fun for him. And I'm sure when he, as he grew up and got into more competition, he began to see, I need to work at this. And what he said in the book, once he committed, once he gave his all to music, he soared like an eagle. And what was it like growing up with the Jimmys? It was great. It was wonderful. Because this wonderful person loved me. And he was my brother. And I loved him with all my heart. And I was always so very proud of him. Thank you so much.
You guys are getting tired, so I'm not going to say anything else, except it's so cool to have been a part of this family, and I still am a part of this family. But I was able to find it after, all my life. I kept thinking, should I try to find my birth parents? And through the Missouri Adoption Registry, I finally put my name in. And Larry had been waiting, and Georgia, my mother, had been waiting. And so in 2002, we were told that everybody wanted to meet. And so the first communication I had from Larry, of course, he wasn't home. He was touring in Seoul, Korea. But I sent him a picture of myself, a wedding picture, and he emailed back and he said, you're the one. You're my daughter. So anyway, thank you, Coryell family, everyone, for just welcoming me. It's overwhelming to be sort of adopted back into a biological family that we didn't know. So, and that just all started with Larry's love. And I know that you feel his love through his music. Love you guys. Thank you.
Now we will have words of encouragement by Tariq Hassan, SGI USA, Senior Vice General Director. Good evening, everyone.
I will also be brief. I already cut my speech in one half. I cut another period by the time I finish. So first of all, I'd like to offer my deepest condolences to Larry's family, especially to his wife Tracy, who I just met this week for the first time. And your strength, Tracy, and no help to your entire family. Thank you for communicating with me so we could put this together this week. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to speak today also. Also, my deepest condolences to his children, Allegra, Andy, Morali, Julian, his brother Jim, his sister Gloria, all of whom I met either today or this week. And all I can say is that as part of your extended family, SGI, we embrace your suffering, although we can in no way match the grief of you as his closest people on this planet that you might feel at this time. I also want to recognize Larry's grandchildren, Charlie, Jackson, Jake, Jasper, Jaden, nephew Clayton, sister-in-law Mimi, and many other relatives, including Tracy's dad, Paul, who's been accompanying her all week. Thank you. So I won't talk about my memories with Larry, because yours are much, much deeper, much more profound. I've known him for about 30 years or so, mostly through SGI. I've heard him play concerts, only in SGI, never outside of SGI. And one of the greatest concerts I remember him was at Carnegie Hall in 1996. And it was a joint SGI and UNICEF Culture Festival. Some people in this room played there. And my internal image of Larry is always like this great light emanating from his unusual hair. So he always reminded me of that rock opera, Jesus Christ Superstar. Somebody old enough to have been there. And as a musician, he was a superstar, and all of you know that. But from my encounters with him, I can only describe him as the most humble, sincere, and gracious human being. In those times I was with him, you have much more experience. And as I've shared with Tracy, one of my encounters with him that is deeply embedded in my mind is not from one of his performances, but from his humanity. As I recall, he had just returned home late at night from a gig somewhere in the world. This is when he was living in Connecticut. But he had promised to attend a gathering of men, SGI men, in Connecticut early the next morning, around 8 a.m. As it turned out, only 5 or 6 men turned out for this gathering. Larry, as promised, brought his guitar, whipped out his guitar, and played with his whole heart. These 5 or 6 men, as if he was playing in Carnegie Hall. No difference. 5, 6 people or thousands of people. I would like to share, since this is a Nichiren Buddhist memorial service, I'd like to share some thoughts from the perspective of Nichiren Buddhism. Music, or sound, is an intrinsic part of the Buddhist tradition. The Lotus Sutra, parts of which we recited earlier, is the highest teaching of Gautama Buddha, who lived in India over 3,000 years ago. In his lecture on one of the 28 chapters of the Lotus Sutra, entitled Bodhisattva, Wonderful Sound, that's the name of one of the chapters, the leader of our Buddhist organization, Daisaku Ikeda, states, "The entire universe is playing a wonderful sound. The universe itself is a symphony of life, a chorale sung by all beings and phenomena, a serenade, a nocturne, a ballad, an opera, a suite. The universe performs all wonderful sounds. The foundation of this is the mystic law. It is Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. Therefore, reciting the sutra is essentially a wake-up song that causes the sun to rise in our hearts. Reciting the sutra is like reading a poem, and chanting Nam-myoho Renge Kyo is like singing a musical masterpiece." Thank you so much for attending.
Tracy Coryell.
Thank you all so very much. I appreciate it, and I know Larry appreciates this. We had 27 years between us, and so we talked about things that might have seemed might be different from the normal things people would talk about. Close lineage. A lot of it was about, I don't want to leave you alone. Who's going to die first? We always spoke about it lighthearted. It was never serious, but it was spoken about a lot. And before we got married, we would joke around about. We would joke around, and I would say, "Well, what kind of investment is that? What's in this for me to marry you? We're so much older than me." And he said, I promise you 100 years. I promise I'll live to 100. And looking back, I realized how afraid I was of the this moment. But I believed him. I totally believed him. That I was going to get 100. And I said, you got a deal. I'm married. And it's been the ride of my life. I'm so grateful to have found him and share my life and love with him for the last 16 years. It went by like that. It just seems like it was yesterday. And he used to tell me all the time that I was his best friend. And I would tell him, he's my best friend. I really felt that. I told him all the time how brilliant I thought he was, how brilliant he was. He didn't think he was. He didn't. He was very humble. I told him all the time how his genius inspired me, and it brought tears to me all the time, all the fan mail, people drawing pictures of him. I would cry every time I would hear this, and I always try my best to connect him with his fans. He was always doing his music, and he loved all the fans. It drove him, He knew that's what kept his music alive. We prided ourselves on being a spirited, powerful team. We had difficult times. But we worked really hard to keep everything going, and we had wonderful times. I studied this man inside and out. I wanted to know how he ticked because he was different. I knew I was in the presence of somebody of genius, and I loved that. I wanted to, I don't know if this sounds funny, but I was honored to get to live with him and to witness how he functioned on a daily basis, what made him tick. I still felt I had a lot to figure out, but I really felt I know him. I know who Larry is, and I love him profoundly. The experience of living with him and witnessing his creativity on a regular basis, it taught me a new way to live. He taught me so much. He was definitely my teacher, my lover, my best friend. To be loved by him like that, to be taken care of by him, to be his wife. Like I said, it was an honor. And he was so dedicated and committed to family. Our family, he called us the little family, because it was just me, him, and Honeybell, our cat. But that motivated him to go out and work. That's what he would say. I gotta keep the cat in kibbles. We used to talk about, a lot of spiritual stuff. We really felt we had a soulmate connection that transcended moral desires and struggles. We used to really talk about how we felt we found ourselves this time around, late in life, at the last minute. And, but at least we connected. And we made a pact for next time around. Like I told you, we talked about this stuff. It's almost like it was scary sometimes. But how are we going to meet up in the next life? And we came up with the key of D. I don't know how that's going to manifest. But I'm going to listen to that. So, I'm going to wind up soon. I'm exhausted. And, Larry left on Friday. He had shortness of breath last week, but it wasn't a big complaint. And he's like, I said, let's call, let's do the doctor. Yeah, I can manage, let's monitor. I don't know why I believe this man this time around. I don't know why, but I did. Thursday was the big day. I said, if you're feeling anything on Thursday, you're not going to the game. I could talk. Me and Larry spoke very frankly. We could say anything in any way to each other and just, it's okay. I said, so I was like, you're not going if you have this on Thursday. Of course, it's the wrong thing to say to Larry because now I realize at that point he wasn't going to tell me the truth. So, oh, I feel great. I feel great. So we got on the plane, went to New York, and when he landed, I didn't get the phone call that Mike and Morale got. I got, Tracy, it's like magic. I feel 100% better. And yeah, it must be the city. And I believe that somehow. I believed it. We kept in touch the whole, the whole couple of days. I'm like, are you okay? Yeah, I'm great. I'm great. So I didn't think anything of it. And Saturday night, comes home from the gig. I got a text, because if you text late, and if I was up, I would call. So he texts, I'm in the sheets, I'm having my coffee. And normally I just get those texts and go to bed. It's been a long time. It's been, 12 years is a long time. And I got used to that. And so, but that night, I wasn't comfortable with that. I wasn't satisfied. So I called him. And he didn't answer. And I thought, oh well. And then he called back. And we spoke for like 5 minutes. How do you feel? I feel fine. I want to come home. I got the check. I want to put it in the bank. I want to go home. I said, okay. We'll have pasta tomorrow. Monday we're going to the beach. Monday night plans to see Colin Hay, the singer, in Orlando. So it was all set. I'll call you in the morning when I'm having my coffee. And he was having a coffee then too. He was the only man I knew that could drink coffee to go to bed. He said, it was very night, and that was it. 9 o'clock came, no phone call. 10 o'clock came, no phone call. 10:30, no phone call. And I thought it was just crazy busy. My times might be mixed up, but maybe like at 11. He should have been on his way to the airport by then, and I knew he was supposed to have breakfast with Mike. And I called my mom and I said, I'm calling like crazy. He's not picking up. This is weird. He probably lost his phone or something. And my mom had that sound in her voice, you better call the hotel, and I didn't like that. And I said, Mom, that's nuts. I'm not going to do that. I hung up the phone and I realized I felt something too. So I made the call and they said, no, Larry hasn't checked out yet. And I said, can you just go check his room and maybe his bags are gone, just let me know. And 20 minutes went by and he didn't call me back. And so I called and they said, could you hold on, we have to pass you to the director of the hotel. And I knew. I didn't know good night meant goodbye.